Most people look at Jupiter and think it is beautiful. Those swirling colors, those bands of orange and cream wrapping around it, that giant red spot sitting on its surface like a painted eye staring out into space. It looks like a work of art. It looks calm. It looks like the kind of planet you could just float next to and admire. But that picture is a lie. Jupiter is not calm. Jupiter is not beautiful up close. A world so extreme that our spacecraft barely survive going near it. A world that has been destroying things for 4.5 billion years and is still doing it right now, today. And most people have absolutely no idea. So today, we are going to talk about the real Jupiter. Not the pretty picture in the textbook, the actual thing. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you will never look at that bright dot in the night sky the same way again. Where to start with the size? Because you cannot talk about Jupiter without talking about how unbelievably massive it is. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, and it is not even close. You could fit over 1,300 Earths inside Jupiter. Think about that for a second. 1,300 copies of our entire planet stuffed inside one single world. But even that does not fully capture it. Take every single planet in our solar system: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. Add all of them together, all their mass combined into one number. Jupiter is still 2.5 times heavier than all of them put together. Every other planet we have combined, and Jupiter still wins by a massive amount. It is not the biggest planet in the solar system. It is the solar system. Everything else is just leftover material that Jupiter did not bother to absorb. And here is something that should genuinely make you uncomfortable. Jupiter almost became a star. When our solar system was forming about 4.5 billion years ago, Jupiter was gathering mass at an incredible rate. Jupiter, pulling in gas and material from the cloud of dust and debris that was swirling around the young sun. If Jupiter had managed to gather just a little more mass, about 80 times more than it has now, something would have happened inside its core. The pressure and heat would have become so extreme that hydrogen atoms would have started smashing together and fusing. Nuclear fusion, the same process that powers our sun. Jupiter would have ignited. It would have become a second star. Our solar system would have had 2 suns, and Earth as we know it would almost certainly never have formed at all. The conditions would have been completely different. The orbits of the inner planets would have been disrupted. Life here might never have gotten started. We exist partly because Jupiter did not quite make it to being a star. It missed the cut. And instead of a second sun, we got something that in some ways is even more terrifying. Now, let us talk about what Jupiter actually is, because it is nothing like Earth or any of the rocky planets. Jupiter is a gas giant. That means it has no solid surface, none at all. If you were somehow flying a spacecraft toward Jupiter, and you just kept going, kept descending into its atmosphere, you would never hit the ground, because there is no ground. The atmosphere just gets thicker and denser and heavier the deeper you go. Near the top of the atmosphere, the pressure is low and the winds are already insane. As you go deeper, the pressure builds, the temperature rises. The gas around you gets thicker and heavier until eventually the pressure is so extreme that something happens that sounds completely impossible. The hydrogen gas around you stops being a gas. It does not become a normal liquid either. It becomes something called liquid metallic hydrogen, a state of matter that does not exist anywhere on Earth naturally. Under the crushing pressure deep inside Jupiter, hydrogen atoms are squeezed so tightly together that their electrons break free and move around freely like they do inside a metal. The hydrogen becomes electrically conductive. It flows and moves like a liquid, but conducts electricity like a metal. It is one of the strangest substances in the known universe, and Jupiter has an ocean of it the size of a planet sitting in its interior. That ocean of liquid metallic hydrogen is responsible for something that makes Jupiter genuinely dangerous, even from a distance. As this electrically conductive liquid swirls around inside Jupiter, it generates a magnetic field. Every planet with a magnetic field has one because of moving electrically conductive material in its interior. Earth has one too, and it is incredibly important. Our magnetic field protects us from radiation coming from the sun. It deflects harmful charged particles away from our planet, and without it, Earth would probably not be able to support life. Jupiter has a magnetic field too. But comparing Jupiter's magnetic field to Earth's is like comparing a lit match to a forest fire. Jupiter's magnetic field is roughly 20,000 times stronger than Earth's. 20,000 times. It is so large that if you could somehow see it with your eyes while standing on Earth, it would appear bigger than the full moon in our night sky. It stretches millions of kilometers out into space in every direction. It reaches all the way past Saturn. It is the largest structure in the entire solar system, and it is completely invisible. Now you might think a strong magnetic field sounds like a good thing. On Earth, it protects us. But Jupiter's magnetic field does not protect things. It destroys them. Here is what happens. Jupiter's magnetic field is so powerful that it grabs charged particles floating through space, particles coming from the sun and from other sources, and it traps them. Then it accelerates them. It speeds them up to almost the speed of light. These particles get trapped in giant rings around Jupiter called radiation belts, similar to Earth's Van Allen belts, but incomparably more powerful. The radiation inside Jupiter's radiation belts is so intense that it would kill an unprotected human being in just a few minutes. Not hours, minutes. It would destroy the electronics on most spacecraft within hours. It is a permanent, invisible field of death surrounding the entire planet, and it extends so far out into space that you are already inside it long before Jupiter even looks very large through your window. NASA has sent several spacecraft to Jupiter, and every single one of them has been damaged by this radiation. The Juno spacecraft, which is currently orbiting Jupiter right now, was built with a special titanium box surrounding its most important computer parts, a radiation vault. This vault weighs about 200 kilograms, and its entire purpose is just to shield the electronics from Jupiter's radiation for long enough to complete the mission. And even with that protection, Juno can only fly close to Jupiter for a few hours at a time before the radiation starts becoming dangerous to its systems. The Galileo spacecraft, which actually sent a probe down into Jupiter's atmosphere in 2003, received a radiation dose so enormous during its mission that it would be the equivalent of tens of millions of medical X-rays hitting a human body. And that was just from being in the area. Imagine trying to actually land there. Let us talk about the storms, because this is where Jupiter goes from being scary to being almost unbelievable. You have probably heard of the Great Red Spot. It is one of the most famous features of any planet in our solar system. It is a storm. A single continuous storm that has been spinning on Jupiter's surface for at least 400 years. We know it has been there for 400 years because that is when humans first started looking at Jupiter through telescopes well enough to see it. It may have been there much longer than that. Scientists think it could be hundreds of years older, and we just do not have records going back far enough to know for certain. This storm is enormous. At its largest, it was wide enough to fit 3 Earths inside it, side by side. Today it is actually shrunk somewhat compared to what it used to be, but it is still larger than the entire planet Earth. One storm, bigger than Earth, spinning continuously for at least 4 centuries without ever stopping. The winds at the edge of the Great Red Spot spin at around 400 kilometers per hour. And here is the crazy part. 400 kilometers per hour is considered relatively calm by Jupiter's standards. In other parts of Jupiter's atmosphere, jet streams of gas tear across the planet at over 500 kilometers per hour. These are not gentle breezes. These are walls of gas moving faster than the fastest winds ever recorded on Earth during the most violent hurricanes. And they never stop. They have been blowing at those speeds for as long as we have been watching Jupiter. There is no calm season on Jupiter. There is no quiet period. It is constant, permanent, violent chaos, covering the entire planet all the time. And the deeper you go into that atmosphere, the worse it gets. The winds become more intense. The pressure increases. The temperature rises. Scientists have calculated that somewhere deep inside Jupiter's atmosphere, the pressure reaches levels that would crush any spacecraft we have ever built instantly. We have never sent anything deep enough to actually experience it and survive. The Galileo probe that descended into Jupiter's atmosphere in 1995 managed to survive for about an hour and got down to a depth where the pressure was about 23 times the atmospheric pressure on Earth's surface before it was destroyed. And that was nowhere near the really extreme depths. Jupiter swallowed it completely. The probe just disappeared into the crushing darkness below and was never heard from again. Now, let us talk about what Jupiter does to the space around it, because this is something most people never think about. Jupiter's gravity is so powerful that it has been reshaping our solar system since the very beginning. When the solar system was first forming billions of years ago, there was a large region between Mars and Jupiter where another planet could have formed. There were enough material there, enough dust and rock and debris coming together. But Jupiter's enormous gravitational pull kept disrupting that material. Every time pieces of rock started to come together and grow, Jupiter's gravity would pull them apart or throw them off in different directions. That planet never got to form. Instead, all that leftover material just stayed as a scattered belt of rocks and debris. We call it the asteroid belt today. The asteroid belt is not the remains of a planet that was destroyed. It is the remains of a planet that never got to be born, because Jupiter would not allow it. Jupiter also acts like a massive vacuum cleaner for dangerous objects flying around the solar system. Comets and asteroids traveling through the outer solar system often get pulled in by Jupiter's gravity. Many of them get swallowed by Jupiter entirely. Many others get flung out of the solar system completely. In 1994, scientists watched something incredible happen. A comet called Shoemaker-Levy 9 had been captured by Jupiter's gravity and torn apart into 21 separate chunks. Then, one by one, those chunks slammed into Jupiter's atmosphere at about 60 kilometers per second. The scars left behind on Jupiter's atmosphere were larger than the entire Earth. The energy released was estimated to be equivalent to hundreds of millions of nuclear, not 1 point, but 6 times rent. If even one of those chunks had hit Earth instead of Jupiter, it would have been the end of most life on our planet. Jupiter absorbed all 21 of them without even noticing. Some scientists argue that Jupiter actually protects Earth by catching or deflecting objects that would otherwise hit us. That Jupiter's gravity acts like a shield for the inner solar system. Others point out that Jupiter's gravity also throws things toward the inner solar system sometimes, actually sending dangerous objects our way that would not have come near us otherwise. The truth is, probably both things are true at the same time. Jupiter both protects and threatens. It gives and it takes. It has been doing both for 4.5 billion years, and it will keep doing both long after every human being who has ever lived is long gone. Jupiter also has moons. 95 confirmed moons at last count. Some of them, Jupiter is tiny, little more than captured rocks a few kilometers across. Io, Europa, Ganymede and Callisto are called the Galilean moons because the astronomer Galileo first spotted them through a telescope in 1610. Each of them is a fascinating world in its own right, but they are not peaceful places. They exist inside Jupiter's radiation belts. They are bathed in radiation constantly. Io, the innermost of the 4 large moons, is the most volcanically active world we know of anywhere in the universe. Not because of heat from inside, like Earth's volcanoes. Because Jupiter's gravity is constantly squeezing and pulling at Io as it orbits. This squeezing generates enormous amounts of heat inside Io. And that heat has to go somewhere. It comes out as volcanoes, hundreds of active volcanoes covering the entire surface of Io, constantly erupting, constantly reshaping the ground. Io's surface changes so dramatically from eruptions that if you mapped it carefully today and then came back in a few years, it would look completely different. Europa is perhaps the most exciting of Jupiter's moons for a different reason. Underneath Europa's icy surface, scientists believe there is a liquid ocean of water, kept liquid by the same tidal heating that makes Io volcanic, just less extreme. An ocean of liquid water hidden under the ice, and that raises the most exciting and terrifying question in all of science. Could something be alive in that ocean? We genuinely do not know. We have never been able to look. The surface of Europa is covered in a thick layer of ice, and the radiation from Jupiter bombarding the surface makes it an incredibly hostile place to land a spacecraft. NASA is currently working on a mission called Europa Clipper, which will fly past Europa many times and study it in detail. Maybe one day we will send something that can drill through that ice and look at what is in the water below. So step back and think about everything we have covered. Jupiter is 2.5 times more massive than all the other planets combined. It has no solid surface. It has liquid metallic hydrogen flowing in its interior. It has a magnetic field 20,000 times stronger than Earth's. It has radiation belts that would kill a human in minutes. It has a storm bigger than Earth that has been raging for at least 400 years. Its atmosphere has winds of over 500 kilometers per hour. Its gravity crushed an entire comet into pieces and swallowed all of them. It prevented a planet from forming in the asteroid belt. It has 95 moons, including one that is the most volcanic place we know of, and one that might have a hidden ocean with life in it. And it has been doing all of this continuously for 4.5 billion years. Jupiter is not the gentle giant of the solar system. That name could not be more wrong. It is the most powerful and destructive force in our solar system after the Sun itself. It is a world that operates on a scale that makes everything else around it seem fragile. And it is sitting right there in our neighborhood. Close enough that on a clear night you can see it with your naked eye as a bright, steady point of light. The next time you look up and spot it, just remember what you are actually looking at. A storm raging for 400 years, radiation that kills in minutes. A gravitational monster that ate an entire comet and has been reshaping the solar system since before life existed on Earth. Beautiful from a distance, absolutely terrifying up close. That is Jupiter. Thank you so much for watching. If this changed the way you think about our solar system, make sure you subscribe, because we have so much more coming. Next time, we are going to look at another world in our solar system that is hiding something nobody expected to find there. Something that might change everything we think we know about, where life can exist. I will see you in the next one.